If you died tomorrow, would you be remembered? Well, what if I told you that by the end of this video, you will have a D&D kingdom so catchy it'll be stuck in your players' heads till the end of time? Cause my name is Assassin and I want to make you look good. So today I'm gonna help you build better D&D kingdoms that will suck your players deeper into your games, harder than the mimic who French kissed your rogue. But pay close attention, because while the kingdom you see here looks impressive, there's something beneath the surface your players won't expect that will keep them awake in their beds for weeks to come. And no, it's not having some crazy plot twist like all the other channels tell you to do, because today we're going to discuss the 5 unseen traits your kingdoms must have. So sit back, take a deep breath, and enter my magic world by clicking the full screen button here. But while the first unseen trait may seem too obvious, it's actually the glue that holds your whole kingdom together. And no, it's not going to be easy, because most people can't even lift a finger to give their players a lifelike experience. But you're not most people. You're a hard-working human fighter who doesn't give up. So if you're ready to do this right, then pause the video, grab pen and paper, and write down the answer to each of my kingdom questions when you see this icon here. But in order to build the perfect kingdom, we must first turn to the legends of old. But can you tell me what these 4 kingdoms have in common? You may be thinking land, or kings, or dragons, in which case you'd be wrong, because Westeros had no dragons. But what if the answer is hidden in plain sight? Because if you want a kingdom no one will forget, then you'll need to give it a name. But don't be fooled, because it's not your name that makes the kingdom, but the kingdom that makes your name. So you can literally name your kingdom whatever you like. Tolkien even called this spot on the map Linden, because he was feeling lazy. So press pause, pick up your pen, and write down a name worthy for your kingdom, then press play. The next thing your kingdom needs is a bougie logo, also known as its coat of arms. I use this simple trick I'm about to show you to create any coat of arms in seconds for all of my kingdoms. So if you want to save time, pay close attention. First, pick 2 colors. The bolder your 2 colors are, the prettier your coat of arms will look. Next, think of an icon that matches the name you just wrote for your kingdom. Maybe your kingdom is called the Bullswift Kingdom. If so, maybe your coat of arms looks like an angry bull plastered on a red and yellow shield. So using your kingdom's name as a prompt, pause the video, sketch out a loose design for your coat of arms, then draw a shield around it. Don't make it perfect. This should take you 1 minute or less. Then you can make it pretty later. Here's what my first sketch looked like. Then press play when you're done, because without this next tip, your coat of arms will be useless. I'm going to give you 3 tips that will add layers of depth to your kingdoms deeper than the meaning of life. But sadly, I see so many GMs miss these crucial points, making their kingdoms feel more fake than the cover of Tiamat. Because adding these 3 steps can be the difference between your players acting like murder hobos or knights of the Holy Grail. The simplest of these 3 vital tips is giving your kingdom an age. Because having an age like 562 years old takes you 0 seconds to write down, but will anchor your players so they won't feel like you just pulled this kingdom out of your butt 5 seconds ago. Because age always adds gravity, almost as much as this next tip for kingdom building, which is generations. The family line of your kingdom is more vital for your storytelling than your story itself, because if you do it right, this technique will write your story for you. So how many generations have ruled your kingdom? Has the family line continued for 12 generations over the past century? Or has one sussy immortal ruler been the sole monarch of your kingdom for the past 839 years? And if so, what's keeping them alive? These are all questions your players will ask themselves as you drop these breadcrumbs into your kingdom. But be careful, because there are 3 more tips that work so well, even fiction writers use them to turn their readers into radical addicts of their books. But first, we need to write down the size of your kingdom. Is it a tiny nation of a measly 100,000 isolated people? Or does the world flock to your kingdom, which hosts 3 million nationalists? Before I share the next 3 addictive qualities of a kingdom your players won't forget, pause the video to write down your kingdom's current age, how many generations have ruled it, then its current population. Press play when done. These next 3 tips are what really make your kingdom shine. But the 3rd tip is the pineapple on the pizza that gets everyone riled up, so listen closely, because if your ruler is trash, your kingdom won't last. Now, most people believe a trash ruler is a ruler who shows weakness, but this is one of the largest lies in the affluent kingdom building community, and will always result in flat, cheesy rulers who will bore your players to death, when really, what your kingdom might need is a weak, pathetic ruler to mark your players, because making a ruler who we think is cool is far too easy. We want want to make our ruler unforgettable, and the true mark of an unforgettable leader is not what they've done, but how they made you feel. But before we do that, we need to give our ruler a name. Using the Bullswift Kingdom I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna make a ruler and call her Daisy Angus. But to give her a vibe our players will never forget, let's give her 3 unique traits. First, let's decide if she's a workaholic who stays up all night to plan and overthink her foes, or if she's a lazy stay-at-home cow who grazes on hay all day while her kingdom rots to manure. But once we find out if our ruler is lazy or hardworking, we need to add the second layer to our ruler, which is how does our ruler perform with others? Is she painfully awkward as her eyeballs dart back and forth while she chokes on her own spittle? Or is she uniquely suave in the most creamy buttery way? But while most DMs would stop right here, they'd be missing out on the final hook that will stab your players through the heart. Because adding this third and final layer to your ruler changes how your players will relate to this NPC for good. Which is why we must ask ourselves the question, will our ruler be kind to those around her, sharing the milk and honey of all her hard labor? Or will she be the cruel sadist of a taskmaster who milks her subjects for all they're worth? These examples are all extremes, but can be adjusted any way you like. So let's pause the video and write down whether your ruler is diligent or lazy, awkward or suave, kind or cruel, then press play. But most DMs miss this hilarious low-hanging fruit I'm about to show you that speaks louder than the words about your ruler, and that is their number of children. Does your ruler go crazy each night, birthing hundreds of children who run about the kingdom, causing mayhem on every street? Or is your ruler too busy to do the deed, having just one or no heirs to their lonely throne? Pause the video to write down how many children your ruler has, then press play. Now, at the start of this video, I promised you I'd expose the 5 unseen secret sauces to writing a kingdom that lasts forever. But first, what is this head doing here? Let's read this clue hidden in the book of Proverbs. By the blessing of the upright, a city is exalted, but by the mouth of the wicked it is overthrown. The words you use have the power to create life or destroy it. Will your land be one that towers gloriously into the skies, or will your land be one crumbling towards its demise? We can let your words decide that, but if we want to do this well, then we need to know the strength of the 3 pillars that make up the foundation of your homebrew kingdom, which are the church, the military, and the money. Now, when I say church, this can be any religion or temple in your homebrew world, but I'll be using the word church to make things simple. But be careful, because if one of these pillars becomes stronger than the rest, your kingdom won't last the night. To prove this point, let's take a look at the church. If the church is overpowered, then the power-hungry pope may have the ability to condemn and overthrow the monarchy at a moment's notice, gaining absolute power for himself. But if the church's power is non-existent, then it may be only a matter of time before the cults in your city start a black magic revolution. But what happens when your army becomes the strongest pillar? If your army is overpowered, then your general may be scheming a coup to backstab your ruler. But if your army is non-existent, then your kingdom will be top charts on the travel list for rival kingdoms to pillage. But what happens when your money pillar becomes stronger than the rest? With money flowing and pleasures in every place, your ruler may be at risk from dying of a gluttonous heart attack or a new psychedelic overdose. But if money is your weakest pillar, then perhaps the starving serfs in the streets have brought their torches and pitchforks to riot their way into the capital, where they plan to behead your ruler in hopes that your firstborn child will do better. That is, if you have one. For the Bullswift Kingdom, I gave them a strong army, less money, and a weak church, so its dark cults are slowly spreading, while the Bullswift general becomes more power-hungry each day. So decide the state of your kingdom by sketching these pillars on your paper at different heights, along with the results, then press play. Go right. In a moment, you will have the final trait, and it's all gonna come together like a flood. But first, we must discuss the unseen point of interest your players won't be able to get out of their brains. To describe this point, let's look at the ancient kingdom of Egypt. When you travel to Egypt, what is the one thing you know you've got to see? If you answer the pyramids, you're not far off, because every kingdom needs a landmark your players will never forget. Perhaps it's the Great Stonehenge that makes no sense for its time, or the Lonely Mountain from Tolkien's books. But we're playing D&D here, so don't let these silly places get in the way of your unbridled creativity. Is your famous landmark a world tree that towers into the sky filled with temples carved in its sides? Or is it the fossil of a Megacolossus to remind the people of the beasts who once roamed the land? But how do you write a homebrew landmark your players will never forget? The answer is pretty amazing. In fact, what if I told you there was a secret technique the Matthews use that will change your games forever? I discussed this sneaky little trick in this video here, but be warned, because after watching this video, you will never view these famous D&D celebrities the same way ever again.